What's the most ridiculous thing a boss said to stop you from resigning? I worked as a contractor in the IT department of a huge financial firm. On paper, it looked impressive. In reality, it was a grind. My original manager once forgot to file paperwork that would have secured me a permanent position. An opportunity gone, just like that. I was overworked constantly, treated like cheap labor, and stuck in a culture where loyalty meant doing more without ever being paid more. Contractors like me were always treated as second-class workers. No benefits, no PTO, and no real say in anything. But then I landed something better. A state job, better pay, real benefits, still remote. And even if I had to go in, the office was closer. It was everything my current employer couldn't compete with. The only issue was that my financial firm dragged its heels on my employment verification, nearly sinking the whole deal. But once the start date was official, I gave my notice. Just over 2 weeks. My last day would be a Friday, giving me the weekend to reset before starting the new role Monday. That's when the circus began. This company had a bizarre policy of running software updates every Sunday night, which meant Monday mornings were always chaos. Systems broken, bad patches everywhere, everyone scrambling. They bullied people into working through it, and they especially pressured anyone leaving to stay through a Monday. I'd seen coworkers cave before. They weren't going to get me. My manager called me, and immediately the guilt trip began. 2 weeks notice wasn't proper etiquette. Training took 3 weeks, so I was being selfish. How could I do this to my coworkers? Apparently, I was a bad person. When I didn't take the bait, they switched tactics. Now it was policy. They claimed it was against company policy to quit on a Friday. I almost laughed. I'd never seen a policy handbook. Contractors weren't even given one. But suddenly, this secret rule was being thrown at me like it was gospel. I told them flat out, I'm quitting Friday. That's my last day. They didn't like that, so they gave me an ultimatum. If I refused to work the Monday, I wasn't allowed to clock in at all until I'd changed my mind. They were smug about it, convinced they had me cornered. No PTO meant no paycheck if I stayed out, but I didn't care. My finances were fine, and I needed time to get a suit and prepare for the new job anyway. So I logged out, shut everything down, and took an early unpaid vacation. The next morning, the calls started. Angry, screaming voices. I was late. I'd thrown the whole team into chaos. I cut them off and reminded them of what they said. I wasn't to clock in until I agreed to work Monday. Dead silence. Then, are you serious? I asked if they were serious yesterday. That's when the insults began. They called me pig-headed, told me to grow up, demanded I come in Monday. I asked if they'd pay me my new salary rate if I did. A confused no was the answer. I told them they had their answer too. And that became the pattern all week. Every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, they called me. One call would be insults. The next, apologies. The next, desperate begging for me to just come in a few hours. But every time, they tied it back to Monday. If I stepped in even once, I was locked through the chaos of Monday. By then, I'd already returned their equipment, so even if I wanted to, I couldn't. Finally, Monday arrived. My phone rang one last time. They told me I was officially fired for not showing up. Fired. After I had already quit. The irony nearly made me laugh out loud. The truth is, I think they genuinely believed I was bluffing, that I was playing hardball for a raise or a promotion. Or maybe they believed their own hype about company loyalty. They preached it nonstop, and a lot of people bought into it, but not me. Months later, I heard that my manager had to personally cover my shifts because no one else would. Eventually, that same manager and several others quit. The entire department started crumbling. They had promised more than they could ever deliver, pushed away experienced staff, and the whole thing started buckling under its own weight. In the end, they tried everything to keep me. Guilt trips, fake policies, threats, daily harassment, and all it did was hand me an extra week of rest before I started a much better job, while they were left drowning in their own chaos.